Hi, I'm Kelly Cervantes, and this is Seizing Life, a monthly podcast produced by Cure Epilepsy. This month on Seizing Life, we bring you two interviews from the Freezing Man Festival, a multi-day music festival held in Madison, Wisconsin last month. The festival is a recent expansion of the annual Joey's Song concert, which occurs every January to raise funds that support cure epilepsy research initiatives. All the artists involved with Joey's Song donate their time and talents, and several of them have personal connections to epilepsy. So, last month we went on location to Madison to speak with two of those artists about their experiences with epilepsy and their involvement with Joey's Song. Kay Hanley is the lead singer of the band Letters to Cleo, a songwriter for numerous animated series and an Emmy Award winner for her songwriting on the television series We the People. Kay is also the mother of a young woman who has lived with epilepsy for most of her life. Kay spoke with us about her daughter's epilepsy journey and how she first became aware of Joey's Song. Kay, thank you so much for coming and chatting with us today. I'm so honored to be able to have this conversation with you.
I am absolutely thrilled to be talking to you.
I got to see you perform last night, and you are just like a bundle of energy and so entertaining to watch on top of just being crazy talented. So,
Thank you.
But today I'm super excited to talk about your sweet girl Zoe. And before we get into all of the epilepsy stuff, I want you to introduce us to Zoe and tell us about who she is as a person.
All right, so my daughter, Zoe Mabel Eisenstein, she's 25 years old. She was born in 1999. She, very typical child. I would say more than typical. She kind of like came out of the womb with like a set of instructions that no one else get. Like she just immediately she was just like, hey, what's up? And just like engaged with people and just always incredibly bright and engaging so there was no reason to believe that there was anything unusual about her. In probably like the first grade, we started to notice that she was kind of like doing this thing where she'd be talking to you and then she'd just go like, and just go away for a second. And this was happening, by the second grade, it was happening like many times a day, to the point where even her friends were getting annoyed with her because they thought that she wasn't paying attention to them. But we weren't really thinking that there was anything beyond sort of just being a space shot or whatever, when she had her appointment with her pediatrician, we brought her in and I was trying to say, like, I think she needs glasses. I think she needs, like, we need to test her for blah, blah, blah. And he asked, Dr. Abramian asked, well, what is the reason that you think that? And I tried to describe where she would just kind of like, just go away for like a second or two, many times a day. And just when I was explaining it, it happened. And he looked at her and he was like, oh, she's having a seizure. And I was like, excuse me, what? Yeah. And it was like, what are you saying? Like, it didn't register as a seizure to me.
Well, and I don't know. I mean, I knew nothing about epilepsy seizures when my daughter.
No one does.
Like, you have this idea of what a seizure looks like, what epilepsy looks like, and it's not that.
Exactly. I mean, it can be like that.
Sure.
That's sort of like the convulsive.
Now we know that.
Now we know. But I mean, this was shock. And he said they were called petit mal seizures. Well, okay, but where did she get this?
Right.
What is, and no one said epilepsy. So as you know, epilepsy is still a mystery to everyone, including pretty much every doctor that you will bring your child to. So like you're kind of left to figure out what a grand mal seizure is on your own.
Right.
And or what a petite mal seizure is, and they're also called absence seizures. So she got on a medication called ethosuximide, and which
And
has
was
been
that, did you go and see a neurologist?
our pediatrician sent us to a neurologist in Santa Monica, who was this older woman who was just like, oh yes, these happen all the time. You're lucky that you caught it because most children aren't diagnosed. The doctors think that it's ADHD and they get sort of like shunted to the back of the classroom and where they, stop learning. And then by the time they get into adolescence, it resolves on its own. And we were like, oh, great. We have these petite mal seizures that will resolve in adolescence. Ethosuximide is a wonderful medication, and it really got her absence seizures under control. She had been having 50 a day.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, they just were constant. And if she was tired well, we actually weren't able to make any correlations between what would make them because no one told us.
Right. You didn't know what triggers to look for.
No. So we would notice some days we would call it awful. We were like, she's very seizure-y today. Like we literally, and we still say that because we didn't have any language.
Right.
So hers did not resolve in adolescence, and when she was 12, she had her first grand mal seizure. And I also lost my SAG insurance that year. I mean, luckily Obamacare had just become a thing, so I was able to get everybody in our family, we all had pre-existing conditions, on California Cares. So we got...
And I think I want to pause right there for just a minute because I think that's so important to acknowledge is that I think so many times we sort of blip over the insurance piece of this
God.
how that complicates every facet and just how far we have come. I think there's a whole generation of young people who don't recognize that like pre-existing conditions were a thing.
Yes.
That that's not something that they have to worry about.
That they could say like, you cannot have insurance.
Right.
We're not insuring you if you have epilepsy.
There were all of these other barriers and levels that you were managing in addition to a lack of information. So you have to switch doctors. She's 12 years old. She's having these tonic-clonic seizures. Where did you turn to?
Well, the neurologist wanted to taper her down, or the one that kind of cut us loose, wanted to taper her off ethosuximide because she was becoming a teenager, and she thought that even though this was a great medication that was managing, I mean, it wasn't solving her epilepsy. Like she was still having breakthrough seizures every day, but it wasn't 50. It was like 2.
Right. It was more manageable.
Yes. And she could focus. She wasn't losing half the day with a complete reorganization of her brain and then having to recover from that.
Right.
We got an appointment with the Keck Center.
And where is that?
Which
What
is in
that?
Los Angeles,
Okay.
which is sort of a world-renowned pediatric, all sort of all-encompassing pediatric care for, chronic illnesses. And we found a doctor, and then we had an appointment, and then something happened where I forget what happened at that point. So that wasted about 6 months of our life, that whole Keck medical. In the meantime, I got my SAG benefits back, which is like the most kick-ass insurance. And so the first thing I did was I called, we got a lead on a doctor named Dr. Holder at LA Children's. And she is, have you ever heard of her?
I have.
She is, oh my God, she is, I mean, the most amazing nutball. We love, so now Zoe's on, like she had gone on Keppra, which was an absolute disaster for her. It works
either
for a
works
lot of people.
or it doesn't, but the side effects can be intense.
It was a disaster for her. That, and in fact, that was kind of what that exacerbated the whole period of time where she was having tonic-clonic seizures. And so, and then we're trying to find another medication. Anyway, so a year has passed before we finally get in to see Dr. Holder. And Zoe, I believe, was a freshman in high school at this point.
Wow.
And we're going through all these different medications. I forget what she was on at that time, but Michael, Zoe's father, and I, and Zoe Mabel finally get in to see Dr. Holder. And we're talking to Dr. Holder, and she said to us, she was like, your treatment is a failure. And we were just like, thank you. Like, it is.
Validation.
Like, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, we never heard anybody talk to us like as if they knew how to treat epilepsy.
Now, had anyone said the word epilepsy to you at this point?
No, still to this point, no one had said epilepsy. It's a seizure disorder. It's a this, it's a that. So we've now wasted 6-7 years of not treating our child for epilepsy, not researching epilepsy, because I don't want it to be epilepsy. Right. So anything that means it's not, I'm gonna believe. And no, Dr. Holder was the first person to say epilepsy.
Wow. I mean, it makes such a huge difference when you have the accurate diagnosis for what you're supposed to be treating. Now, I also know Dr. Holder is an epileptologist.
She is, and that's unusual.
That's a huge difference as well. And I've said this so many times on this podcast, but I will say it again and again and again. Every epileptologist is a neurologist, but not every neurologist is an epileptologist. And that distinction is incredibly important when you have a child who has refractory epilepsy, who is failing medications, who can't get their seizures under control. You have to see that epileptologist.
You have to, and no one ever told us that that was the thing.
Hi, this is Brandon from Cure Epilepsy. Have you or a loved one been recently diagnosed with epilepsy? Are you looking for more information about epilepsy and available treatment options? Go to cureepilepsy.org/4-patients to get resources and information about epilepsy. Now back to Seizing Life.
So once you found the right doctor, once you were able to find or to get the proper diagnosis and start on a treatment plan, how was Zoe's progress from there with her seizures?
Well, the first thing she did was called for the weekend MRI, the EKG, and the EKG. And
has she had an EEG ever at this point, or an MRI? There's never been any like, I wonder why she's having seizures. Let's check and see if there's something going on in her. No, never. Wow. And you didn't even know to ask for that because
she's seeing her pediatrician regularly. By the way, it's going to resolve on its own in adolescence.
Right.
So who cares?
Yeah.
You know? So Dr. Holder orders the 24, or it was like whatever it was like over a weekend.
Sure.
Where the first day they tapered her off of her medication, and they, did the sort of like bright lights in the eyes and sort of, to trigger the activity in the brain. And so we found out that she has 2 separate kinds of seizures. She's got her absence seizures, and she's got tonic-clonic seizures. And so what ended up happening from that was Zoe got an VNS implant, which is, like the pacemaker, but for the brain.
Yeah, the vagus nerve stimulator.
And the vagus nerve stim. And that's been good for her absence seizures. And
so VNS, it attaches to the vagus nerve, and then there has a little magnet that you can swipe when you
Yes.
feel a seizure coming on. And is that something that she can do on her own, like she feels that coming on, or is that something that you have to assist with?
What will happen is with hers, it's sensory. So the
So it
the
is doing it
sensor
on its
can,
own.
yeah, it's doing it on its own. I mean, she does have a magnet where she can turn it on and off if she's like going to the airport,
Yeah.
and going through, she has to turn
Sure.
it off the stem. But it's what happens is, so the stim senses the telltale signs of this particular kind of seizure. Escalated heart rate, warm skin, and will sort of like zzz, and disrupt the seizure before it happens. So it has been good for her absence seizures.
Great.
Tonic-clonic doesn't treat those. So, I mean, I'm sure there is a treatment with a stim but where the location of, it's
So complicated.
it's so complicated, and people don't realize.
No.
And so if you're a parent, one of the things that was so upsetting about this is, I mean, in retrospect, is just like how isolated we were, because even doctors, I mean, other parents don't want to talk about it because they're just like, oh, it's so terrifying.
Yeah.
Like seizures, what is that? It seems so violent. It seems like death. And
Well, and I think that there is, especially in our generation, I think that the younger generations are doing a much better job of
Yeah.
like living a more stigma-free life.
Yes.
But we were sort of raised with epilepsy and it having this stigma because it is so misunderstood. And so there is this general idea of like, especially if you have a child that is otherwise neurotypical
Yes.
and is leading this more typical life, to not talk about it because you don't necessarily want it to affect them in their
Yeah.
social or professional life. How were the seizures affecting Zoe's life at school, academically?
Well, that's a good question. No one's ever asked me that. I mean, socially and academically, she did great, and she was actually very open about having, and the tonic-clonic seizures that she had in adolescence were at school.
Wow.
So
She couldn't exactly keep it quiet. Like it was.
No.
Yeah.
And she's very open. She doesn't, and we were open about it. We just didn't know anything about it.
Right.
And we couldn't tell, so we only knew what we knew. And like from either experience or from like the information we were piecing together from this source and that source. And of course, when we started with Dr. Holder, that gave Zoe the confidence to say, like, I understand. Like, she felt like she had agency now.
Yes.
And, like, she was being treated. Like,
Yeah.
she was being acknowledged. Like, what is happening to you is fucked up. Like,
Yeah.
this is not right. And you have been failed. And we're going to fix that. And Zoe was just like, this was like oxygen to her.
Yes.
I mean, to all of us.
Yeah.
Like I said, all three of us, when she said that, all three of us just burst into tears because she was so right. And so, we had a relationship with Dr. Holder and Dr. Holder's staff. And she had she was being monitored. She got the VNS. And she went to LACSA, which is an art school in Los Angeles, and she was a filmmaker. She went to the cinematic arts program and made films throughout her high school career. And then I think she, socially, she had to actually be careful with, her classmates needed to know because they would be doing film shoots, which, as you know, up all night, like long
stressful,
hours.
not a lot of sleep. It's a hard career for people with epilepsy.
And had to, constantly be making sure that she had her medications with her, that she was managing her food and her sleep and her stress on her own. But her classmates knew what to do if she had a seizure. Everybody knew that was possible. So she was like really supported in a way that allowed her to pursue her interests.
And I want to emphasize that piece as well, in that there are so many young people who are afraid to talk about this because they're afraid of being different or being singled out in some way. But by sharing it, she was able to be supported.
Yeah.
She was able to get the help that she needed so that she could still pursue her dreams, so that she could still live the life that she wanted to live. And she was only able to do that because she shared.
Yes, and when you make yourself vulnerable, or you just like share this is me being real right now, and like this is what you do if I have a seizure, and you give everybody the information. Everybody wants to rise to that challenge.
Yes.
And people are like, "Thank you for telling me that," and then they have questions, and that just creates. Connection, which is really just all any of us is looking for anyway, epileptic or not. We're looking to connect. And when you share that you are a person who looks normal, but you have this, what we think of as a terrifying disease that you are clearly like unafraid to share about, people like really want to know more about that. So she went off to college. She went north to college, and she switched into, she wanted to go into social work. And she worked actually for a summer at the public defender's office in LA. And she became just obsessed with the idea of helping kids that get stuck in the criminal justice system and can't get out, like children and families.
Yes.
And so she went to school at Sonoma State up north, like went away for college. And managed.
Now, was she still having seizures when she went away to college?
Yep. But she was able to, on her own, like she knew to get sleep. She knew not to drink go to the raging kegger and stay up all night, and managed her medications, and just had a really supportive community up there. She got accommodations for college.
Oh, that's great.
I forget, it's called like a 401.
401, yep.
Something like that.
I want to give you kudos for a moment too for parenting and raising this remarkable young woman who is out there at, telling people what she needs and asking for what she wants academically once she knew what she needed, and requesting those accommodations in college. Like, that's amazing.
Girl, I would love to take credit for this, but she is who she is. Like, it almost has nothing to do with me. It's all her. In senior year, she did a study abroad in Italy, and she's just lived her life.
But she's lived it responsibly.
Well,
she's managing her medications. She knows what her triggers are, and within, adolescent responsibility, but she's aware of what the risks are.
She is aware, and she now lives in Boston. We actually moved. I'm from Boston, and so when we moved to LA when she was 4, and I think she's always had that. She and her cousin, my sister's eldest daughter, have been their whole lives. Like, when we grow up, we're gonna move to Boston, get an apartment together, and that. And they did.
And then they did.
And they got an apartment together. And so she and Erin Eileen live in Boston together, and they have an apartment in Dorchester, which is like right down the street from where I grew up.
Aww.
So I'm very proud that my daughter is a dot rat. And and she lives her life. She has a full-time job, and she's currently getting her master's in social work.
That's incredible. And she's still having seizures. Has she ever had periods of seizure freedom?
No, she hasn't, unfortunately.
And I think that's the other piece that so many people who receive an epilepsy diagnosis aren't told, is that 1/3 of people don't find seizure freedom. And that's, I think organizations like Cure Epilepsy, Joey's Song, like they are out here fighting for research, for that funding for all of the patients, because the medications have side effects regardless of whether they are, even if you can find that seizure freedom with the medications and the treatment. But it is, it can be unnerving. It can be, the anxiety that comes with not knowing when that next seizure is going to happen. And for all of those people, that the 1 in 26, the 1/3 of the 1 in 26 who can't find that control.
Yeah.
It doesn't make for the easiest life.
Well, because there's always that baseline of anxiety, I think. I mean, I try to not contribute to it by, I mean, if she, there are times when she will have a seizure, and I know that there have been behaviors on her part that have led to it, and it's like, better.
Yeah.
And I can't, I really try not to like mom out on her too much, and like, because she knows. She knows what to do and what not to do. It's like, if you were out, at the football game, like, and you only got 4 hours of sleep, like, you're gonna have a seizure day. Like, I'm so sorry that we still call it that, but we don't have.
No, I know, but I think that.
That's like,
But here's the
we
thing.
didn't know what it was.
I think that I think that we come up with our own words, and that when you are dealing with a chronic illness like this, I think it's sort of you're grieving something, and you need those little bits of dark humor.
Yeah.
And I don't fault that at all. I kind of actually love it a little bit. Like, you come up with your own ways. You're like, no, look, this is the cause, and the after effect is you're going to have a more seizure-y day if you don't do what you need to do.
Call it?
No apologies necessary. I think that is, I sort of love it. I am just utterly impressed by Zoe, but I do want to switch gears for a minute, because we are here at Joey's Song in Madison, Wisconsin in January.
My favorite.
How did you get involved in Joey's Song?
Okay, so this is where the story becomes my story. One day in 2019, I was scrolling through Instagram, which I really don't do very often. And my friend Chris Collingwood from Fountains of Wayne posted this thing about he was in Madison, Wisconsin, like playing this concert with like all of these people like Freddie Johnson and Butch Vig. And I was just like, what is this? And then he mentioned Joey's song, Finding a Cure for Epilepsy. And I was like, excuse, what? So I'm just like in shock, like looking at this, like, okay, so there's a charity, like there's a concert with like all my favorite people in the Midwest that is working to find a cure for epilepsy, and they're, what? Like, it was just like my whole world was just like turned upside down, because I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
And so of course I'm like, Chris, what is this? How do I get involved? And Mike Gamal,
yes,
the head of Joey's Song,
yep,
sees this, and I'm not kidding. 2 seconds later, he was like, I'll tell you how. And the next thing you know, I'm on a Zoom call with him, and I'm coming in January. The pandemic hit, and we couldn't do it. Or maybe, no, you know what? It was 2020. It was the show in 2020 that they had just done.
Yeah.
That's what happened. And then the world shut down.
And then we couldn't do it in 21.
Yeah. So I had agreed to do it. I had already asked Tanya and Gail. I mean, I knew I could get Tanya and Gail to come with me. So, and we finally got to do it in 2022. Now there's just like a huge presence of women in Joey's Song.
Last night was remarkable.
Right?
You have Belly, you have
Oh my
Letters to
God.
Cleo, the Bangles.
The Bangles
oh my
reunited.
gosh.
And then, can we just talk about Nikki Moninger from Silver Sun Pickups, the bass player, with she matches her shoes to her, she had that red Falcon and like the Dorothy, like sparkle red shoe.
So.
I can't with her. She's so great. And she's just a monster on bass. So
there was some major feminine power on that stage.
And then tonight, so now they had the know-it-all boyfriends. Now we have the know-it-all girlfriends. It's a battle of the bands.
Yes.
We won the championship belt last year. We are prepared to crush them again this year.
I cannot wait to watch it.
But I'll just backing up a little bit. So when I got involved in Joey's Song, the first year I was here, I was like, oh my God, everyone's just talking about epilepsy like it's just a regular thing. Like, no one's like, oh, or what is it? Or like people are talking about like research and like, but like regular people.
Yeah.
And like just a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I was like, now in the meantime, my ex-husband has married Tama, a woman named Tama, who developed seizures in adulthood. And so she now is like part of our family, and she and Zoe can like really connect.
Because they both have epilepsy.
Right. And so this is amazing, but she's also kind of like, she's been sort of on, she has a different kind of seizure disorder from Zoe, and like
Absolutely.
it's different. And but no one knows that why they're different, or and they're different medications. And so when I get back from this thing, I'm like, the first year, I was like to Tama and Zoe, I was like, you guys, you're not going to believe this. And like, there's a whole world out there of like people talking about epilepsy. And so 3 years into it, Tama finally got to come last night, and she's just like, and she's here the whole weekend, and she's just like, it's so moving to me to like give her that, because this is what Joey's song gave me, is that like you're not alone anymore. Like we're here. Like we're in this.
And to be able to do that, I think that there are only so many experiences, I think, that sort of unite us in humanity. And music is one of the biggest pieces of that. Like this uniting force. So to be able to come together around a cause like epilepsy, to raise money for epilepsy research while embracing and celebrating music and amazing musicians. And I have to say, from the audience, it's just amazing to watch all of you up on that stage have so much fun and play together, because I know that you don't typically ever play together, and you're like putting together these bands, and it's a really remarkable weekend. And I just thank you for helping raise more awareness and raise the status, raise money, and for sharing Zoe's story with us, because you've got quite the remarkable family there.
Thank you so much for having me and talking to me today. And thank you to Adelaide for having such an impact on the world and giving you to us. It's amazing.
Thank you.
John Cowsill is the former drummer for the popular hit-making 1960s family band, the Cowsills. John also spent more than 20 years performing with the Beach Boys. He's currently on tour as the drummer for the Smithereens and will release an album with his wife Vicki Peterson of the Bangles in the coming year. John spoke with us about growing up with epilepsy while maintaining a hectic touring schedule with the Cowsills, and how he recently became part of the Joey Song family.
John, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to have this conversation.
It is my pleasure, and I'm looking forward to the conversation we're probably going to have.
To kick things off, why don't you tell us about how epilepsy first entered your life?
Oh, wow. It first entered my personal life at 2 years old.
Oh.
Yeah. The story goes, because I was 2, that I was playing on a set of bunk beds, which I know very well, the bunk beds, and the way the room was situated, there was a dresser right like this far from the back of the bed that I would crawl up, at 2. And I fell off the bed, and I hit every knob on my head coming down backwards. And there were those, I don't need to get so graphic, but I remembered the dresser, and when my auntie told me that I hit over one of those knobs. So my skull cracked open, they thought I was dead, and was in the hospital for a while, I think. And then, and I had acquired epilepsy. I started having seizures. I'm only told the early parts of that, but I remember them. And I remember being 5 and having it, because those are some of my first memories, and I just didn't know what it was, but.
Do you know what kind of seizures that they
Grand
were?
mal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Wow.
that kid, yeah. So just had to learn to deal with that. I'm a Navy brat, so the Naval Hospital took care of me, and I remember that very well. Every month I'd go to Boston and I'd have an EEG, and back then they didn't have the needles that they put in your head. It was just the peanut butter. They called it peanut butter, and I was a kid and I didn't mind it, but taking it out was a nightmare. And then I remember the first time I saw the needles for the EEG, I think it was 8. And I remember they had just started that, and I was like, no. I went into hysterics. I said, you're not putting those in my head. I was so afraid.
Oh my gosh. Now, did they put you on any medication to help treat the seizures?
Yeah, I was on phenobarbital 4 times a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And did that help control the seizures at all?
I guess so. It must have. They wouldn't have kept me on it. But I still remember having seizures, and I remember being at school and having them in the playground and not liking that at all.
No, of course
I'd wake
not.
up soaking wet, I mean, just kind of crazy stuff. But I knew that my teachers knew that I had it, but I wasn't allowed to tell anybody that I was epileptic.
And why?
My parents told me, don't tell anybody you're epileptic, because I was in a family band called the Cowsills, and we were just starting to become famous. I was 7, I was playing bars 4 sets a night. They just didn't want that out there. And when we started becoming famous, they had all these other doctors coming around and checking you and stuff. And they said, don't say anything to that doctor. Don't even tell him, because all my records were in the Naval Hospital. No civilian hospital could have gotten them. So nobody knew I was epileptic.
Oh my gosh.
And that went on for a long time. I've fallen off stages and fell backwards because it comes on and you can't scream for help.
Sure.
Because it starts with a faint, and you just.
I was just going to say, do you have any sort of aura or
Oh
something?
my gosh, man! I
you
remember
know?
just trying to crawl out of a hole every time I came out of a seizure. It's like crawling out of anesthesia is what it is.
Yeah.
And
But did you ever know before? Like, was there a scent or a feeling?
something
or
would
something?
click in me, and I knew it was happening. But by that time, it's taken your voice away, so you can't yell for help.
Now, you mentioned that you were in a family band. This was not a small. I mean, this is what the Partridge Family was later based on.
It was based on
so
my
this
family.
is like no small thing.
No.
As you're saying this, of course, the first thing that comes to my head is that now we know a huge trigger for seizures is A, stress, and B, sleep deprivation. As you're performing in bars every night, these are
I'm on phenobarbital 4 times a day. My report cards in between 1st and 4th grade were John could do much better in school if he stayed awake.
Ay.
And now my teachers thought that was because of the phenobarbital, but I'm sure it was partially that. But it was also because I was out till 2 in the morning. But that was only on the weekends, and Sundays we kind of shut it down. But and I wasn't a stressed kid. Well, maybe I was, because I was always afraid I'm about to get in trouble. My dad was really a scary person.
Now, did you have, so you weren't allowed to tell anybody, did you have friends in school that you shared any of
Oh
this
yeah, I had other
with?
epileptic friends.
Oh, you did?
I did. I had Debbie McGann was one of my friends, and she babysat me, and she was epileptic, so we had bond time, because we were epileptic, and I didn't have my medication. She was taking the same thing. So, and back then we didn't know how many epilepsies there were. We didn't know about any of them, and all of a sudden, research is an amazing thing, and it will continue to be an amazing thing,
Yes.
and that's partially what raising the money for is, and maybe find a cure, which would just be phenomenal.
Yeah, it would be everything, I think, for both of us. Now, do you still have epilepsy? Do you still have seizures to this day?
I outgrew it, and I think my last seizure, I was in my 20s, that I can remember that I will call a seizure. It wasn't a typical seizure, but I remember that, and I hadn't had anything for several years before, and I just remember the length of time between them, and they had switched my medication, and I cannot remember what it was. But I just on my own stopped taking it.
That's not dangerous at all.
It might have been, and I don't condone this to anybody out there. But after I got about 28, I hadn't had a seizure in years, and I just, and I was a cocky young man, and so forget this. So I just stopped taking everything. My early to mid 20s, I can't remember exactly when I stopped. I just didn't go back.
Yeah.
And I never got a certified, okay, you're out of the woods, you're healed kind of. I never went back to the doctor to find out.
Yeah.
And I've never had a seizure since.
Now, have you had an MRI? Because it sounds like the onset of the seizures was a traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic epilepsy.
That's what it was. I'm a type of strobe light guy. I still close my eyes around strobe lights on stage.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And I I always remember that growing up, and they're always testing you with the strobes, you know. It's weird. Yeah, while you're
It's
having an
interesting
EEG.
how those triggers will stay with you. And I think you bring up, just in talking to you, you can see how there's trauma there associated with it.
Absolutely.
From your childhood and all of these different, and the way that it has impacted you. And I think that people always like to say that children are resilient. And I always like to remind them that children become adults who are a lot less resilient.
With scars.
Yeah.
You know, and hopefully you can recognize them so you can deal with them. But some people don't recognize that they have that. And that's a sad thing, because now they're all messed up and stressed out and anxiety ridden and don't know why.
Yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely.
Everybody's wired differently to accept what it is. And sometimes you need some help.
Yeah, absolutely. Now tell us how you became involved with Joey's song.
I was sitting in New York. I had just stopped working for the Beach Boys, and I was laying. We lived in a studio apartment in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, which was wonderful because we live in a very palatial place in Malibu Canyon. And Vicki and I have not spent that much time together married, because I was always on the road with the Beach Boys 80% of the year. She was on the road with the Bengals for the first half of our marriage, and then they kind of slowed down. And it wasn't until the pandemic hit that we spent a year and 3 months nonstop together, and we had the best time. And in fact, I watched Hamilton live. I bought a movie screen for outdoors because I couldn't find a big enough TV screen for inside. So we bought a movie screen, and we put lounges out on our deck, and we watched movies every night through the pandemic. If it got cold, we got down stuff on, and we still watched it outside. It was nice. But so I'm in New York in a studio apartment, and I'm laying in the bed like Willy Wonka's grandparents, which is in the middle of the living room. You can't help it. You're in a studio.
Yeah.
And Vicky's talking with Mike because he's bringing on her, because her sister Debbie was doing this, and they're talking. And then I was on the bed doing a crossword puzzle, and she says, "Hang on, I'll ask John." And she says, "Hey, can Butch Vig have your phone number?"
MBD.
To a drummer. Yeah. She says that to a drummer. And I went, wait a second. What did you just say to me? And he says, "Butch Vig asked for your phone number." I said, "Give it to him." And he called me up, and he says, I saw your name. I want to get you on the Joey side. And I wasn't even coming to the show, but him and Mike discussed it, and then I came on board. And they didn't know I was an epileptic at all in my lifetime. And so I told Mike that. He said, "You are so coming.
Yeah.
You're coming to this." And that's how I ended up coming here. And I was here last year. And it just was the best time, and the best people who put it on, the best people who come perform. And Madison, Wisconsin hosting this thing. Now, I know other places have hosted them in the past. Just people are opening your doors, and so lovely and sweet and kind and giving. And with all the bad stuff that's in the world, there's so much good still. And it's just an amazing thing. And I live for that.
Yeah.
For those good people and good things. They are here. It's not all dark. So,
yeah.
And that's how I ended up at Joey's song, and I will come every time they ask me to.
What part do you enjoy most about performing at this festival?
Oh, it's not the performing. That's the nothing part. But that's fun. I like performing, but I just like hanging out with everybody and meeting the other musicians and artists. And it's really community theater on a big level for me. And I've only done that a couple of times, and that was some of the most fun I had. The most work for a short meal, but it's the bonding and the fraternizing and meeting people who do what you do, who you never run into, because when we're on tour, we're the only entity out there unless you're playing a festival. Mm-hmm. So the festivals, you meet other musicians, but never on your own gigs. So people always say, "Oh, you must know so many drummers." I said, "Nope, I'm usually the only one on the gig who's playing drums." So
sure. But it also, I'm sure it means something a little extra to be a part of something that's giving back to something that affected your childhood so much.
Yeah, I mean, well, that was the incentive, and then you get here and you meet all these people who are giving on behalf of that.
Yeah.
And Mike's story, it'll bring anybody here, I mean, like yours, just like yours.
John, we are so grateful that you and your wife and all of these musicians are here to share your talent, to share your art, to give us these nights of joy, to give us these moments, and all to support epilepsy research, to support all of the patients and families out there that need it so much, and to do it in such a joyful way. It's a pretty special weekend, and I'm so
It is a
grateful to
special
you
weekend.
for being here and for sharing your story with us, because it's much easier for me or for Mike to talk about our children and our experience with our children. But I think that it is another level of importance and special when someone with epilepsy can speak about it directly, because everything that you have accomplished in your life, given that you experienced seizures, given that you had epilepsy, given that you were on all of these medications and fought with the side effects and struggled in school, and here you are today. You have built an incredibly successful music career. And I think that that is so important for the kids out there, for the teens, the 20-somethings, the 40, 50s, to know that a successful life, a happy, joy-filled life is still a possibility
It's
with this
all waiting
diagnosis.
for you. It's just waiting for you.
So thank you for being willing to share your
Well,
story.
it's a humbling experience, and I thank you for the same thing.
Much appreciated.
Thank you to Kay and John for taking time to speak with us during the Freezing Man Festival weekend. And a big shout out to all of the amazing artists and crew members who volunteered their time and talents to help Joey's song raise money for epilepsy research and awareness. Cure Epilepsy is proud to be the research partner of Joey's song, having received more than $500,000 in donations from this amazing event. If you would like to support Cure Epilepsy's mission to fund breakthrough research that will transform the lives of people living with epilepsy, please visit cureepilepsy.org/donate. Thank you.
The opinions expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of Cure Epilepsy. The information contained herein is provided for general information only and does not offer medical advice or recommendations. Individuals should not rely on this information as a substitute for consultations with qualified healthcare professionals who are familiar with individual medical conditions and needs. Cure Epilepsy strongly recommends that care and treatment decisions related to epilepsy and any other medical conditions be made in consultation with the patient's physician or other qualified healthcare professionals who are familiar with the individual's specific health situation.